Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Wednesday, March the 6th, 2024. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative. Welcome to a surprise live stream. Now, if that title is not exactly what you were expecting, I need to explain what's going on and beg your forgiveness just a little bit. But the circumstances that caused this to be what it is, no one's fault. It's just these things in life happen. We're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we are on Twitter. So thank you for everybody who's been sending out messages about the live stream that was going to be today. Just that unfortunately it has not worked out that way. So I'll explain what's going on here in a minute. Let's see who all's in the house so far. My man, it is good to see you. I've seen your messages. I know why you haven't been here. That's cool. I get it totally. As John Wayne once said, man's got to do what a man's got to do. Daniel, just hold that thought. I'm going to explain what's going on here in a minute. There is Brian, but there's no Chrissy, but I'll tell you what's going on here in just a second. Anyway, we are on YouTube, we are on Rumble, we are on Twitter. So please hit the like button, subscribe if you're not currently a sub to my channel, and then we'll get into the business of the day. So let me drop the volume on the music and start explaining what's going on. Probably about a month ago, I had reached out to comedian and podcaster Chrissie Mayr, who is one of my favorite people in the whole daggone world. And I asked her if she wanted to be on my live stream, do an interview with her. And she said, sure, I'd love to do it. Okay, cool. And, we went through all the normal steps and confirmed with her last week, hey, we're still on, you're good. Yeah, fine, no problem. Well, over this previous weekend, she developed a very severe case of pink eye. Now, if you know anything about Chrissy, there's a lot of things you can say about her. And one of them is she is an absolute trooper. She will work through anything. And she did. She did her Sunday night live stream, Simpcast, 9 p.m. Eastern, and was doing it in sunglasses. This is how determined a woman she is. Okay, so she's doing that with her guests, no problem. So reached out to her, I guess maybe a couple of days ago, Wednesday, I'm pretty sure. And I said, hey, I know what's going on with the pink eye. If we need to reschedule this, just let me know. It's all good. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to have you on here as a guest, but doggone it, I want you to be healthy and happy and everything else. She said, okay, let's kind of play it by ear. Well, in the meanwhile, apparently she has come down with a very, and I mean very bad case of the flu or head cold or something. I mean, the way she was describing it today, she's just absolutely miserable. And I said, look, if you give me the green, if you want it rescheduled, say the word and we'll do it. I said, look, and I again repeat it. I was like, look, I'd love to have you on as a guest. I love hanging out with you, but if it can't happen, it can't happen. So we left it kind of open. I didn't say anything about what was going on because number one, it's not necessarily my place to do it unless she says, yeah, we're going to reschedule it. And the other thing is, I know, at least I've got some idea of how Chrissy operates. If she makes a commitment to somebody, she's going to do something or going to be make an appearance or whatever, she'll do it. I mean, she'll move heaven and earth to try and make that happen. Hates disappointing people. And that's part of what makes her so daggone cool. Finally, about maybe 20 minutes to 4, she reached out to me and said, Brian, it's better if we just reschedule this thing. She's like, the shape I'm in, I am not going to be able to do this, and I will not be any kind of a good guest for your live stream. I was like, no problem. I was like, go to bed, get some rest. I'll reach out to you tomorrow, and we'll just reschedule it from there. So if you're thinking of the girl, please say a prayer, send out some good karma, positive vibes, whatever it is that you have in your life on behalf of the Lady Mayr, as she is referred to here on the electronic front porch. And let's see our girl get back up on her feet, because daggone it, the world is a much more interesting place with Chrissie Mayr being funny in it. So So that's what's going on. And like I said, not her fault, not my fault. I'm most certainly not mad at her. How could I be mad at her? This is something beyond her control, you know. So I mean, I am not upset in the slightest. And frankly, I appreciate her willingness to try it. First of all, because like I said, we left it open. I'm checking my Twitter feed my DMs all afternoon, going, and then finally at about 20 minutes to 4, she's like, I just can't do it. I was like, honey, no problem. No problem. We'll just reschedule. It's all good. So, Chrissy, if you see this later, we love you. We're praying for you. We want to see you get better. Because like I say, the world is a much more tolerable place when you are being funny in it. So get better soon from all of us, or however the kids do it these days, whatever. Anyway, now, if you've hung around my channel long enough, you will know that I am never a want to lack for things to say. And figuring this might happen, I kind of prepared a backup plan. And since we're sort of here, I thought we'd take a quick peek at some things related to last night's Super Tuesday primaries. And also from there, just some observations and get your guys' comments on it. If you were not here last night, I had the privilege of hosting a fabulous live stream with my good friends Christian Watson, the professor. We had also Brentley from the Dangerous Rhetoric podcast. We had author Chad Manley. We had Ruben Christopher Haynes, my good buddy. And for several hours, it was, and not for several hours, for the whole thing. Those 4 gentlemen, if you're not subscribed to their channels, be it on YouTube or on Rumble, or you're not following them on Twitter, I recommend you do so, because they're 4 extremely honorable men, and they bring a lot to the table in their own way and in their own style. And getting all of us together is always a load of fun. And, we hung out and made observations and comments and jokes and cracked funny on each other and cracked funny on the political candidates and what have you. And it was a real good time. But the upshot of everything that finally happened when the dust settled last night is that we now have more or less a set rematch of 2020. And give me 1 second here, because I wanted to pull up one more thing just to kind of give everybody a flavor for where we're at in terms of what's going on. And yeah, okay, good. Now, last night, there were 15 different states around the country that held their primaries and or caucuses. And as expected, Donald Trump won most of them, the exception being the state of Vermont. And Nikki Haley did win there. But the upshot of all of it is this, and I'm going to go ahead and put this up on screen. This is from the New York Times, their delegate counter. There were 854 delegates up for grabs. Trump hauled in most of it. As it stands right now, at least by the count of the New York Times, Trump is just barely 200 delegates away from securing the nomination. Odds are, by projections from some solid people that I listen to, he could quite possibly do it by next Tuesday night. And in case you're wondering what's coming up on the calendar next week, give me 1 second and I'll flip right down to it. Here you go. You've got the caucuses in American Samoa, Georgia, Hawaii, Mississippi, Washington. So give me a quick second to do some math. 68, 82, 122. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I could be off. Sorry about that. I was off a little bit. For sure, he's going to clinch this thing by March 19th, either way. And as of this morning, Nikki Haley withdrew from the race for the Republican nomination. So it's Trump's to win at this point. There's no stopping it from happening now. He will be the Republican nominee seeking the presidency for now the third consecutive presidential election. And I would have to go back in the history books and see. I know there have been candidates who have been 3-time nominees of their party. The first one that pops into my head immediately is William Jennings Bryan, the legendary Democrat politician of the late 19th century or the early 20th century. Adlai Stevenson did it twice in the 50s, but I can't remember outside of Bryan if there's any other 3-time nominee for their party's nomination. And for that matter, if anyone has done 3 consecutive presidential elections. No, wait a minute. I stand corrected. There is one that comes to my mind. And actually, it's kind of historically ironic because the person who I'm thinking of is Grover Cleveland, a former president who people are making historical analogies of comparisons to between Grover Cleveland and Donald Trump. So yes, for the 3rd time in a row, Donald Trump will be the Republican Party nominee. Now, by way of some other information, there was one other major thing that happened last night, and it didn't happen on the Republican side. And this is something that I think needs to be commented on. I really, really do. Everybody was focused on the fight between Donald Trump and Nikki Haley. Appropriately so, by the way. And most people acknowledge, well, Joe Biden is going to cruise in all these Democrat primaries, which he did. He won with overwhelming numbers. Okay. And he had opposition from, Minnesota Congressman Dean Phillips, but Phillips was no real threat to him. But there's something funny that happened, and it kept showing up throughout the night. And the more I kept looking at it, the more I kept realizing Biden has a very big political problem. I want to show you what I'm talking about, and I want to take you first to Virginia. This is from the Decision Desk's tracking of the vote. Now, this is with like 80, let me enlarge this just a little bit for your benefit. This is with 86% of the vote in, okay? And as you can see, Biden romped. 88% of the vote. But there's a problem. Between the other 2 people on the ballot, and even though they're running, frankly, token opposition, you've got 11.3% of Democrat voters who are voting for anybody but Joe Biden. Now, you may look at that and say to yourself, well, I don't see what the big deal is. Biden still won. He won with well over 80% of the vote. What's so interesting about the fact that somebody voted for somebody else in a Democrat primary against an incumbent? Okay, fair question. Let me show you something. And this probably, in one form or another, going to keep Biden's campaign people awake at night for weeks to come. Okay. This is the map of the 2020 election results. Let me show you something. This is Virginia. Biden won Virginia. Okay, no big surprise there, in that you have Democrats since 2008 have been winning the Commonwealth of Virginia in their elections. No surprise there. Biden only won with 10.1% of the vote. Okay. I want to go back to that delegate counter out of Decision Desk and show you guys something. There's 11.3% of Democrat voters in the primary that are voting for anybody but Joe Biden. Biden only won Virginia by a shade over 10%. Are you beginning to see his problem? Now, some caveats to what I'm saying. Do I expect all 11% of that vote that's voting against Biden in the Virginia primary to vote for Donald Trump? Heck no. Heck no. Not at all. But my point is this. Biden has not secured his base. Okay? And that is a huge, huge problem for this incumbent president. Okay? And I wholeheartedly agree with you on this, Traveler. His biggest, I don't know if it's his biggest problem, but I'll tell you this much. Where the Israel-Gaza war is concerned, it's eating him and his party alive right now. Of this, I don't think there's any doubt. Now, let me show you some other stuff real quick. Just now, lest you think that this thing with Virginia is like an isolated issue, let me show you a couple other places. This is Colorado. Now, give me 1 second here, and I got to do some fast math. 11.3, 14.1. Yeah, you've got almost 15% of the vote in Colorado voting for anybody other than Joe Biden. How big of a problem is that? Take a look. He only won Colorado by about 14.5. Now, again, do I think Colorado's going to go to Joe Biden in the election? No. But my point is this. There are certain states, and everybody's going to see this as it goes along. There are certain states where Joe Biden is going to be at risk of losing them for any number of different reasons. I think Traveler's right. The Israel-Gaza war is going to be one factor. Economics is going to be another. Immigration, the southern border is going to be another. And there's also just the general, we don't like Joe Biden. And that problem's been there all along. It's just let's put it this way. It's not been noticeable until now. Now it gets down to everybody's voting. Now it gets down to primaries. Now it gets down to Democrats having to put their money where their mouth is when they go into the ballot box. Okay. I've been noticing this trend ever since January or February of last year. And that is that there's about 20 to 30% of the Democrat Party that just does not want Joe Biden. They don't want him as the nominee. They would much rather have somebody else. The problem is they're not going to get anybody else. And that is Joe Biden's biggest issue. Now, one more state. And if you really think he's got problems in the first two states I'm talking about, here's the one that really ought to scare him. This is Minnesota last night. And again, Biden wins convincingly. Okay, no problems there. I mean, yeah, he wins. He wins every county in the Democrat primary in the state of Minnesota. But you have almost 19% voting uncommitted, just like they did in Michigan. So you just do some fast math. 26.7, 28.1. you got almost 28.5% of the Democrat votes in the Minnesota primary that are voting for anybody other than Joe Biden, which is why last night I made a prediction, which I don't think is me getting too far out on a limb here, but I'm just going to go ahead and call it right now. I don't think Joe Biden's going to carry Minnesota in this election come fall. Now, I could be absolutely dead wrong about this. I really could. I could be completely wrong, totally off. But I just don't see how in the next 7 or 8 months he puts this back together. Because there is one other thing, and I want to show you guys something. I can get my hands on it really fast. 1 second. This, to me, is extraordinarily telling. Let me find it. This came out over the last weekend. And it's the New York Times Seneca College poll. And this is the one, there's one number in here that absolutely is terrifying if you're Joe Biden's campaign staff. This is the New York Times poll. So, including leaners, in other words, no whatever. Hold that thought. Same problem. There are Republicans like me, and I know many who can't stand Trump. The only difference. All right. Hold that thought. I'm coming back to it. You bring up the point that there are Republicans that don't like Trump, and I don't disagree with you. Okay. I don't disagree with you at all. Okay. I know where you stand on this. And you know what? We agree to disagree. I respect your opinion on it. That's fine. But let me show you something. And this is the thing that's going to keep Joe Biden and his people awake at night all the way from here to November. Okay. It's not so much this number of 48-44 Trump over Biden that's going to be the problem. It's the other number. And let me show it to you. Go all the way down to the end of that set of column of numbers and take a look at one thing. Let me see if I can pump the size on this. Yeah, here we go. The 2024 vote. Let me drop that down just a hair. I'm going to have to do it at 150. Yeah, there we go. Now, again, going back to the front, okay? Joe Biden is the top line number. Donald Trump is the secondary number, okay? So remember, in this poll done by Siena College on behalf of the New York Times, Biden's got 44%, Trump's got 48%. But how does that break down exactly? As it relates to the 2020 vote, Biden's only getting 85% of his 2020 vote. Trump, on the other hand, has 97% of it. And I agree with what was said. There are Republicans who cannot stand Trump. They're never going to vote for him. That's fine. I understand that completely. That's their Traveler, that's your right, and everybody else's right who feels that way to do so. I wholeheartedly get it. I respect your right to vote for whomever you wish. But Trump's got a more consolidated base vote than does Biden. Now, do I think in the end, that of Biden, that 9% of Biden's 2020 vote, all of that's going to go to Trump in the end? Probably not. Probably not at all. He'll get a decent chunk of it. But my bigger point is this. Biden's base is so divided right now. In certain states around the country this fall, they're not guaranteed for him this year. Not like they have been for Democrats in the past. I mean, Virginia in the end is probably still going to vote for Joe Biden. If I had to really put money on it, yeah, I'd probably go to the window, put money down. Virginia's going to go for the Democratic nominee. I mean, there's just too many built-in advantages that have started happening over the past 15, 20, 30 years for the Democrats that Virginia, it could get close, but I seriously doubt that Virginia's gone. Okay. Minnesota, on the other hand, not only do I think it's in play, I don't think he wins it. I really don't. I mean, remember 2016? Hillary Clinton barely, and I mean barely, hung on to Minnesota. This is a state that hasn't voted for a Republican. This is a state that hasn't voted for a Republican since 1972 when Richard Nixon trounced George McGovern. And she barely held on to it. I think it was like, off the top of my head, 2.5 points. Biden carried it in 2020. He only did it by like, again, a handful of points. It was less than 10%. All right, Gopher's got a number, 2.1. Okay, I was wrong, 2.1. That's how infinitesimally small her margin was. Trump only did one rally in Minnesota, and that was an airplane hangar rally at the tail end of the campaign. He didn't make a serious play on it. Don't you think he's not going to this time? Oh, and I agree with this completely too. I'll agree with that. They've got serious messaging problems, which is why I'm going to be fascinated to watch the State of the Union tomorrow night. Okay. Which by the way, I will invite anybody who's watching this right now that we are going to host a State of the Union watch party on my channel tomorrow night. The speech starts at 9. I'll be on at like 8:40. I'm not sure if any of my fellow commentators will be with me, but I mean, no. That said, you guys are all invited to it. It'll be tomorrow night. We'll be on live at 8:40. The speech starts at 9. So I'm going to be fascinated to see what he does with the State of the Union. But getting back to the election, Minnesota's in play. Personally, I think Minnesota's gone. Nevada, I think it's gone. Arizona, probably. Michigan, possibly. And again, it's a long way from here to November. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. But right now, if I'm in the campaign offices of these two campaigns, I'll almost guarantee you they're a lot happier in Trump's than they are in Biden's. Because you can't, I mean, look, I'm just a guy who's making commentary. I'm not a statist. I will tell everybody up front, I am not a statistician. I'm not a pollster. I'm just a guy that reads the news and comes to my own conclusions. But I'm looking at this and looking at what happened last night, and there ain't no way in the world I can come away from all that and look at it and go, oh yeah, I think Joe Biden's cruising to re-election. Yeah, no problem. He's got no issues whatsoever. Heck no. That boat's taking on water. It's bad. And here's one of my commentators from last night, the Professor Christian Watson. Good to have you here, brother. Oh man, Leon Russell is one of the most underrated keyboard players in the whole of the music industry, man. And Hornsby, that's just chef's kiss perfect. Good music. Invited Trump Jr. to come out. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Ruben's going to be here tomorrow night, and Leah's going to be bringing the crazy in the chat, so that's always welcome. Always welcome. But yeah, tomorrow night's State of the Union address is going to be fascinating. But last night, and here's the other thing. I want to go back to a point that I made a few minutes ago. The Democrats, or let me rephrase that. There is a sizable number of Democrat voters, pundits, whatever you want to call them, okay, that are like, oh, if we could only get Michelle Obama to run. Well, I got bad news for you. She put out a statement 2 days ago and she said, I'm not doing it. I'm not running. Joe Biden's our nominee and I'm supporting Biden. The worst part for the Democrats is they've got Joe Biden. And as the old saying goes, you go with what you got. Well, this is what they've got. Because here's the worst part for them, okay? If you substitute anybody else, um, be it Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, they're polling worse than Biden. Let me say it again. Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris poll worse than Joe Biden. For all these folks out there in the Democrat Party that are like, if we just put somebody else in. Okay, let's stop and think about the mechanics of that for a second, okay? So under this fever dream that some of these Democrat voters and pundits have, Joe Biden's going to go to the convention. He's going to announce that he is releasing all of his delegates, and we're going to have an open convention in Chicago. And out of that convention will come a nominee, and that nominee will have 12 weeks to build a campaign infrastructure, do the fundraising, get his people in place all around the country, and and win in November. Now, I will freely admit that I have never worked in a presidential campaign. I've volunteered in one or two over the years, but I've never worked as a paid staffer or a high-level person or whatever. But even after watching campaigns for all these years, I know this. You cannot plug and play individuals out like fuses in a breaker box. It's just not going to work. For whatever people want to say about Joe Biden, this whole campaign has been built around him. Okay? For better, for worse, like Joe Biden, don't like Joe Biden, I get it, I understand. It's built around him. They've built the campaign infrastructure, they built the fundraising, they've built the personnel, they've built everything around him. You just can't pull Joe Biden out, plug in somebody else, Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, Michelle Obama, and expect all that infrastructure, personnel, fundraising to remain exactly the same, just like nothing ever happened. People want, there are Democrats that like Joe Biden and want to campaign for him. God only knows why, but laying aside that, they're doing it for Joe Biden. You just can't put somebody else in and expect all those people that came to campaign for Joe Biden just to be like, oh, okay, I guess you're the guy. Let's go. It's not going to work that way. Some of them might. They might do it, but I'd be shocked if the whole campaign infrastructure as built for Joe Biden would remain exactly the same. I just don't see. Yeah, and Travel, you bring up a really good point. If the Democrats were going to be running somebody else, they'd already have to be out on the campaign trail anyway. Now, person could make an argument that that that's what Gavin Newsom has been doing. But if that is what Gavin Newsom's been doing with this whole raise my national profile thing he's been doing for the past year and a half, I got bad news for Gavin. It's not helping him. At least not where consideration for 2024 is concerned. Plus, as I understand it, and again, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because I've heard about this, but I haven't had a chance to take a deep dive into it. He's under like potentially a second recall effort out in California. And if that happens, let's just take this idea and just take it to its ultimate conclusion. Let's say that come August, when the Democrats hold the convention in Chicago, that they substitute in Gavin Newsom for Joe Biden. And then he gets hit with a recall effort in California. Now, how's that going to look nationally? The guy who wants to be president so bad, he was there to step in for the guy who is the president. Now his own home state doesn't even want him to be governor. That's going to look real good. So, yeah, you're asking me, what do I think? I think the Democrats have got Biden, and you got to go with it. Like I say, it's a long way to November, but frankly, if last night is any indication of what's going to happen 7 or 8 months from now, I am having cold sweats at night if I'm a Democrat who's working on Joe Biden's campaign all the way from here to November. I really am, because the numbers that came out, like I said, Virginia, Minnesota, Colorado, ought to terrify them. And again, in some states, this isn't going to make a difference. Massachusetts, Vermont, California, although California is going to be closer this year. I think that's absolutely going to happen. But those states that are considered Democrat states that are like maybe marginal, like let's say a Democrat wins them on average by like 10 points or less, be afraid, be very afraid if you're a Democrat. So there's all that. So let's see what's going on around here. Gypsy, thank you for being here. Chrissie unfortunately took ill over the past couple of days, and unfortunately she wasn't able to be here. Well, it's possible. I don't know that I'm necessarily being hopeful. I just think I'm at this moment, given what these numbers are, I think I'm just being realistic. Like I say, it might be that Minnesota, Colorado, Virginia, all of them come home to the Democrats. Yeah, I freely concede the possibility. I could be dead wrong about this, but I'm not so sure that it's hope as much as it is just cursory analysis. Like I say, if Virginia went for the Republicans this year in the presidential election, I wouldn't be shocked completely. Be surprised, I wouldn't be shocked. If Minnesota goes, which I think it will, I really do think it will. I think it's going to go Republican. I think New Mexico is in play. Like I said, I could be absolutely dead wrong. So let's see what else. Let's see what else is on here. Let's see. People are saying hello to each other all over the place. Oh gosh. Yeah. So like I say, we're gonna host a watch party tomorrow night. I did see something that I thought, who was it? Hang on a minute, I gotta find this. Where was it? I know it was up in Connecticut. Who think? Oh yeah, really? Well, that'd be funny. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I just no, I agree with you on that. I absolutely agree with you on this point. The power brokers in DC will take anything for granted again. Oh, absolutely. I think you're right. I think you're right. But then again, if you're in their shoes, what do you do? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not impossible that Biden wins in November. I just think his path to victory this time is exceedingly more difficult than it was in 2020, especially looking around the map. I mean, I was watching Rich Barris today, the People's Pundit, and he was just going through the map. It's theoretically possible Trump could net at least 325 electoral votes. And again, it's not November. I get that. But if you're looking at it right now, based on aggregate polling, composites all across the country, yeah, you could have states going that haven't. I mean, Maine could wind up going for the Republicans, and that hasn't happened since George Herbert Walker Bush. And they might. They might. Which kind of gets to something else. You know, there might be a role for her in that regard. Yeah, I did see that. Oh gosh, let me find that real quick because the way he did it was absolutely funny. I'll play this for everybody. Let me hop out to Twitter and find this real fast because this was cute the way he did it. Hang on, y'all. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Okay. Give me a second here. Okay. Now everybody's going to be covering the State of the Union in one form or another, and as you might expect, Tucker Carlson's going to do the same thing. Well, he came up with a very cute way to advertise the fact that he will be live covering the State of the Union. Now, lest I be accused of this live stream being less than family friendly, there are some words that are used here that you might find objectionable. I'm giving you the warning now, but the way that this advertisement was done was kind of funny because it relies on a historically legendary rant. So with that said, I will play this in 3, 2, 1.
So when this is finally over, I guess I'll write analysis of it or whatever. We'll put it up tomorrow. What do you mean? Yeah, but I got to write it. No, come on. We can't go right on after this. This is too nuts. I need time to think about what it means. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. We will be live on this, TuckerCarlson.com, and many other platforms live Thursday after the State of the Union.
You know, say what you want to about Bill O'Reilly, and God knows people will, but that rant, he'll be known for many things in history. And again, some good, some bad. But that rant, he will never, ever be forgotten. And that was before he ever got to Fox News. That's just, wow. Good afternoon, sir. From the other side of the globe, the Welsh Republic podcast. If you're not subscribed to this man's channel, give him a sub. He is probably one of the best interviewers coming or going anywhere on this planet. Give him a sub, give him support, follow him on Twitter. He's a cool dude, just genuinely a cool dude. Glad to have you here, Welsh. Truly, truly. So yeah, that's what went on last night. And we've got a nice crowd here on YouTube, on Rumble, on Twitter. We even got Mr. Daniel Clancy from Down Under. Forget that O'Reilly's saying that we don't understand the tides, and that it's just God's. It's a poetic way of putting it. Very poetic way of putting it. So yeah, it's about, what is it now? About 4:45. Yeah, for those of you maybe that are just stopping by, we were going to have Chrissie Mayr on here today for an interview, and bless her heart, she came down over the past couple of days. I guess she's gotten a case of this crud that's going around everywhere. I mean, and I hope it does not take her as long to get over this as it did, as it has for other people around the country. But we're just, in the meanwhile, we're sitting around, we're talking about some of the results from last night and postulating about what it might mean for November, and also the State of the Union that's coming up. And I'll take the last few minutes. No, I have not seen that yet, and I need to dive into that at some point this evening, in between loads of laundry. Let me tell you something. Being a bachelor and doing a social media channel, whew, it's tough. It is tough, man. But let me say a couple things about the State of the Union address. Presidents have been using the State of the Union for any number of different purposes. In my lifetime, anyway, I think one of the most masterful political uses of the State of the Union was done by Bill Clinton. And if there are people here watching this live stream that maybe are too young to remember it, it was the late 1990s. The whole Monica Lewinsky scandal was swirling around Bill Clinton. Kenneth Starr, the special prosecutor, was out there just dogging his steps, and had just, actually, let me take that back. The House had just voted to impeach Bill Clinton and send the matter over to the Senate for trial. And in between the House vote on impeachment and the start of the Senate trial was the scheduled State of the Union address. And Dennis Hastert, the Republican from Illinois, was the newly installed Speaker of the House. And I'll never forget Tim Russert on Meet the Depressed, not the Depressed, sorry, a little Rush Limbauhism there. Meet the Press asked Hastert, will you let Bill Clinton give the State of the Union? Hastert said, of course I'm going to let Bill Clinton give the State of the Union. And he did. Clinton was down in the polls. When he was done with that speech and they ran a new set of polls, he was up. Now, was there ever really a chance that the Senate was going to vote to convict Bill Clinton and remove him from office? No. But most certainly that State of the Union started to turn his political fortunes around, which sort of gets to where we are in 2024. If Joe Biden is going to start turning this thing around, again, with the assumption that he does, okay, because personally, I think some of what's going on is baked into the cake. He's got to do it tomorrow night. The stakes for him politically are pretty daggone high. I mean, and I'm starting to wonder too, if the expectation game. Now I got to think about that for a second. In one sense, they are high for him, and in another sense, the bar is pretty low. Here's what I'm getting at. The stakes are important because he really needs to hit this one out of the park. On the other hand, no one is expecting him to do it because of age, speaking ability, whatever else, okay? So it's going to be fascinating to see how this comes off tomorrow night. It really will. On a side note, one day he interviews the Chinese president, see that China is not America's enemy, and I hope he interviews a North Korean leader. Yeah, why not? Look, if he's going to interview Putin, why not Xi Jinping? Why not the leader of North Korea? Ooh, that's not that I'm trying to stir it, but that's an interesting take on it. Very interesting. Well, Ruben, you got a point. You got a valid point there. I'm not so sure that Biden doesn't have personality, or he doesn't have as much personality as Clinton. Because honestly, you're kind of getting to something. You're kind of getting to something about Biden. Is that Biden is not well loved in the Democrat Party. He's really not. I mean, yeah, he's viewed as a good foot soldier. Yeah, he's a good party man. He'll go give a speech for somebody. He'll help somebody raise money. I mean, he'll do all the things that a person at his level in the Democratic Party is expected to do. But he's not well loved. You know, and I mean, when it came to Clinton, there were Democrats that would run through brick walls for him. Same thing with Obama. Biden doesn't engender that kind of loyalty. And Daniel, you bring up a very valid point. He's always had a degree of nastiness to him. He really has. People say it's because he's gotten old. No, he's been like that for years. I mean, like I say, it's not like I'm some kind of expert on Joe Biden, but his reputation for being downright nasty to people, believe me, it's followed him for years. So yeah, there's all that. And that, yeah, I agree with that too. I'll agree with that. The other thing is, and I sometimes wonder about this. When I think back over the course of American politics in my lifetime, I think the internet is a great thing in many respects. In some ways, it's, well, how shall I put this? I think the internet is much like any tool. You can use it for good or for bad. I think in some ways it's been good, in some ways it's been bad, but I often wonder if politicians of a certain era, had the internet existed in their time, if they would have been able to do or get away with the things they did or got away with. And I wonder if, in one sense, as it relates to Biden, if that's not the case. Yeah, just like a hammer. You can use it for good or bad. Excuse me one second. So, yeah, very, very interesting times. Well, folks, I tell you what, I'm not trying to cut this short, but I didn't really have time to prepare much beyond what I've got for you right now. And I know that everybody has lives they need to get to. So, like I say, Chrissie's under the weather today, and she'll be back. She will be back next week. We're going to reschedule her visit. And in the meanwhile, do say a prayer for the young lady. Keep in mind, too, she's also pregnant with her and Frank's first child. So, and they're getting close. It's going to be sometime, I think, next month. So, oh, yeah, thank you. I will need to do that. Thank you for reminding me. I will rename the stream. So, yeah. Well, I don't know if they're going to call him Frank Jr. or what they're going to name that baby. I know it's going to be a boy. But yeah, she's getting close to delivering their first child. So say some prayers for Chrissy. Not just for now with this flu that she's going through and the pink eye and everything else, but yeah, she's getting close to being able to deliver that baby. Traveler, I did, and either I didn't do it right or something, because I'm obviously not getting the joke, but that's just me. I am I refer to myself on occasion as the low tech redneck. So obviously I'm missing the joke. So there you go. But anyway, say a prayer for Chrissie in the coming days and weeks. And like I said, she'll be back next week. Don't worry, I'll let everybody know when. And tomorrow night we're gonna be here for the State of the Union address. Ruben's gonna be here with me. We'll see if any of my other regular agent provocateurs show up with me or not. And if they don't, that's cool. And if they are, that's awesome too. Because yeah, this is gonna be fun to watch in one form or another. I will be on. I'll be interviewed on Friday by Lutch, sometimes known as the Indian Jesus. He's going to have me on his channel at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. So yeah, we'll be doing all kinds of fun stuff. And Saturday morning we're back with Front Porch Brunch. So we're going to try and get everything back to normal. Which, by the way, I do have to thank Miss Up in Connecticut. Let me find it here real fast. Da, 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 da. Come on. Where is it? Okay, I can't. Oh yeah, here it is. And this is more, I guess. There's a lot of reasons why I'm bringing this up, but yeah, the channel's getting very close to hitting 1,000. So if you've got friends out there and you want to inflict pain and suffering on, no, I mean, if you want to share my channel with them, feel free to do so. You're not going to hurt my feelings in the slightest. But yeah, we're getting close, and believe me, there'll be a lot of jumping for joy when that happens. My visit with my family went real well. I'm glad I got to see my aunt. She's going through some physical problems right now, and to put it delicately and discreetly, I don't know how much longer she's going to be with us. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not going to happen tomorrow, or at least I hope not anyway. But it's kind of one of those moments when you're like, yeah, we need to go see the old girl. And we got the chance to do so. We had a load of fun. We had lunch together. Her family, my family, and it was a good time. It's a real good time. But thank you for asking. I genuinely appreciate that. So with that, folks, we're going to go ahead and call it a wrap. Thank you for stopping by. Remember to stop by tomorrow night, 8:40 Eastern, for our hate watch party of the State of the Union address. And we'll be on the Indian Jesus' channel Friday, and then Saturday morning is Front Porch Brunch. So anyway, thank you guys for stopping by. You guys are awesome. And remember the words of that legendary American philosopher Tom T. Hall when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." We'll see you later.